This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, sir, so everything you say now can be held against you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on another Coleman Wealth Home Edition or Home Office Edition. Today, I have a good friend, Christopher Flett, and Chris is the founder of GhostCEO. And Chris is one of the world's greatest business coaches. And I don't just say that as a friend, I say that because that's a fact. GhostCEO was founded in 1999. You have 970 coaches in 10 countries around the world. You're a best-selling author. I've seen you sitting next to P. Diddy or Puff Daddy, whatever his name is, when you were interviewed on Fox years ago. You've spoken to Fortune 500 companies around the world. You've done a lot of work with Raymond James in North America, and you've been coaching me for longer than you probably want to admit, because look what you're working with. So thanks for joining us today, and welcome to our little channel that we've created.
Thanks for having me. I love your microphone.
It's a big microphone.
It is.
Bigger than your microphone. But moving on. I can edit that part out. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave it in. Maybe I'll leave that little moment.
Leave it raw. Leave it raw for people.
Leave it for everyone. Leave it for everyone.
Right.
So thanks for taking some time today. I wanted to, you've been running a YouTube channel of your own and sharing and using this kind of pandemic experience we all have to find new ways to provide value and share information. So I'm going to put a link to your YouTube channel in our description below, or I'll figure out how to do a card or something up top here. And I wanted to capture some of the messaging that you've been sharing with your clients and your audience, so that our clients that are business owners and successful executives and entrepreneurs can use it to figure out how to deal with this new normal that we're all trying to figure out how to deal with. And one of the first videos that you shot, you talked about how in this environment now, we really have to throw process out the window. So that's an interesting idea from a business coach who should be all about process. So why do you say that? What was behind that, Chris?
Well, back to 2007, when we're starting to walk into the financial crisis, we were at 3 coaches, and I started to, kind of get the smell of blood in the water that things were about to turn for the worse. And we had a bit of a slide, as you'll remember, like we saw it coming way, way down the route. And so we had done, 90% of our business was corporate training back then. And I immediately said to the 2 coaches, we didn't have the team we have now, we need to change tack right away, because I think the corporate is going to dry up and we need to shift into a new market, which would be displaced executives who might be exploring self-employment. 2008, we were 17 coaches from 3. 2009, we were 54, and of course we grew. But during that time, I continued to think to myself, I caught that a bit slow. Like there were things that I saw, and I kind of wanted to almost pretend weren't happening, because I was really enjoying the corporate training. Paid very well, had great clients, residual income every year they bring us in. And so part of me didn't want to believe that things were changing. But I got to that point, kind of the dead man's drop, where you're like, I need to evolve or I'm going to die. The shift with this one is, and as you know, I was on book tour while this was all happening, and I was part of the crowd going, this is kind of a small isolated thing. They're going to get a handle of it. But I started to see all the indicators that I saw early in 2007, right? A change in dynamic. People that I hold in very high regard seem to have better information than I did. And I was watching to see how they were acting, because I like to model the behavior of people that, that I want to be more like. And so I quickly, the tour imploded. And when I saw that one of my clients, who was kind of bankrolling most of the tour, immediately canceled every future event.
Now, just time out for a sec. I just want to make sure people know what tour you're talking about. So you had done, just before the pandemic hit, you were
February
on a tour.
23rd. Yeah, February 23rd, I left on a book tour for Activating Champions.
And you live in British Columbia. And tell me where, and this is the new book you've written called Activating Champions. Tell me a little bit, where were you supposed, how many cities, how many dates, how many people? Look, the scope of the tour is interesting.
So I was starting in Seattle, going all the way to San Diego, so down the West Coast. I had about 30 cities and about 55 dates, and we were expecting, upwards of 40,000 people.
Right.
And so, of course, I get to Seattle on the 23rd of February, and at that point, Seattle has a couple of cases. And so I'm there for a week, and, with great response, like it goes to plan, as every book tour has.
Yes.
Then I make my way down to Tacoma, then I make my way down to Portland, and, it seemed like it was almost following me. And so then it started to kind of jump ahead of me, where, there's a couple cases in California and all this stuff. Well, anyway, I was doing an event at Berkeley in San Francisco, And when I left Berkeley, I got an immediate phone call from Facebook saying, we're canceling the event today. And I'm like, oh, why? And they're like, because we're sending everyone home. And I'm like, that's odd, right? And so I'm like, but I'm walking to the car because I've got lots of tour dates, and technology companies are very unique on their own, right? And so I'm like, I'm just going to drive down to Googleplex, where I had an event after Facebook that day, and I'll grab a nice lunch somewhere. Before I get to the car, Google calls, we're canceling. And I'm like, that's strange. And I'm like, that's okay. I'll kick around Silicon Valley, like, always the optimist. I'll just hang around Silicon Valley because I was supposed to do Stanford that night.
Got it.
And so within an hour, Stanford cancels. And then my accounting client calls and says, we're canceling the tour.
It's over.
Well, and they had paid a huge deposit. They bought an enormous amount of books. And so that was not an inexpensive decision. But still, at that point, I'm like, well, that's, people might be overreacting a little bit. But then I start to hear news of Disneyland could be closing, and I'm like, in my entire life, I've never known that to happen.
This whole thing is all unfolding slowly, but accelerating.
But dominoes, they're slow, but it's like bang, 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 and it seems to be adding not only speed but force.
Yes.
So needless to say, I made my way to Santa Barbara, ended up turning the car around, and made my way back to Canada in 2 days because they had talked about shutting the ferries down between Washington State and British Columbia. And I got my car back, and then I quarantined for 2 weeks. And see, the nervous part I had is as I started to see it unravel, in those first 3 weeks of a 7-week tour, I probably shook 5,000 hands.
Wow.
Now I'm a hand sanitizer guy anyway, right? And so I don't put my hands in my mouth after shaking hands, and I always give a little wash. But it was very important for me. Like, I did not leave the house for the first 14 days and then on the news, of course, we're watching what's happening. And I was mindful that I'm pretty sure I didn't have it. If I did get it, I mean, it didn't kind of go anywhere else, but the sheer amount of exposure I had in the hot zones were of concern. But that being said, and so on the drive back, I knew that the world was changing and kind of had already changed, but nobody noticed yet.
Yes.
And so it came back to that pivot point where in the car back driving through Washington State, I was on the phone with the leadership of our coaching company and saying, we need to make immediate shifts. We need to double down on how we're going to get information out, hence this YouTube channel that we just started this year. And we need to prepare people to stay in the right mindset, our clients in particular, because when people are watching CNN for 8 hours a day and talking to coworkers, and their coworkers who they're used to having social engagement with don't have it anymore, it's very easy for people to fall out of the things that got them successful and think that if they have to pivot, they have to change mindset. And what we need people to do is keep the gladiator mindset, but pivoting the weapons or the techniques you're using to engage this new market in a respectful way, right? Nobody wants to be sold into right now, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be selling. And so that's a very delicate ballet to cover right now.
So let's dig into that a bit, because you're right. Like, whatever we were doing before, we have to acknowledge and respect that it is a different world now. And you say people don't want to be sold into, but you have to still be selling. So how do you manage that? How do you encourage your business clients to kind of stay in business and keep moving forward in a world that's very different than what they were in just a few weeks ago?
Well, what I think is nice is the model that we follow at GhostCEO is relationship selling. And so don't do business with anyone you wouldn't want to do business with for 30 years. And I mean, that's what you're great at, Darren, just having known you for this long, is your ability to take care of clients and become a consigliere, right? You are a ad hoc member of the family, including mine. And so most people don't do that. And the challenge we've had in the economy the last 10 years, really since the financial crisis, is we've become very transactional. And so when I say to a client, you got to love your markets, because they're going to know if you don't. And so it's best just to take care of the people that you most want to talk to. Any person I talk to on the phone, I want to talk to. Like, I don't have a relationship with anyone I don't look forward to talking to. And so because relationship is so important, right now, people are craving intimacy, which is a really kind of weird word to use in business.
But true.
No one's interested in the transaction. They're interested in being around people who they can care for and be cared for by. And so the way that we have shifted with our clients, and I guess what I'm saying is, this is probably the first time since World War II where everyone you talk to on the globe is having a similar experience.
Yes.
And so in business and in selling in particular, you're always looking for the commonality. Where do you go to school? Where did I go to school? Do you have kids? Do I have kids? How old are you? How old am I? You know, what business were you in before? What business was I in? Corona is the common conversation starter. Everyone, how is it affecting you? What can I do? And so what we've said to change tack on the selling, because remember, we're always selling, but every sales call you make is not a sales call. It's a service call. Check in to see how your markets are doing. And see, what I'm doing is normally I would be prospecting law firms, accounting firms, investment firms, and trying to showcase the GhostCEO story.
Right.
Now what I'm saying, because you know I'm blunt, is I don't call and say, hey, you know, I'm wiggling in just to say hi. I say, this would normally be a sales call, but we're not selling today. This is a service call. And I'm going to call you when this is all over for a sales call. But the service call is, I want you to get your accountants, lawyers, investment advisors to do these 3 things in the next 3 months. Get them hooked in. Let me send you a free PDF of the book if people can afford it. And make sure that their heads stay in the game so that you're not starting from cold in 3 or 6 months.
Right.
And they go, wow. And they go, well, can you have a call with our team? Yes, I can. We are here to serve. And what I know is in a 30-year relationship, normally, you know, the first 3 or 4 calls or whatever you're investing, I'm willing to invest in these markets for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months.
Okay.
Because when they come out the other side, anyone that was active will be 10 times farther ahead than their competitors who batten down the hatches and close for business.
And do you find that I think people have to make a very active choice personally and professionally how they're going through this common experience of either, you know, I turtle up and I couch potato my way through this, and this is like some kind of weird reverse camping trip, or I figure out a new way to engage with people, use the technology that we now all have, and find new ways to activate and work with people so that you're right. I can take the long view, and whenever this thing is kind of done, suddenly I built all these new relationships over time. And I think you're going to see, I don't know if you found this in the talks, but you're going to see a real differentiation from people that kept at it versus the ones that kind of gave up.
Well, I think the mindset, even for me, I consider myself relatively disciplined, and I continue to practice things that try to callous the mind, right? Kind of keep me constant. But I found that on Thursday, and so on Wednesday, I got booked for 3 conferences in 3 different cities on the same day. And so in a traditional world, right? If I book an event in New York, I go the day before, I speak the day of, and I leave the day after.
Right.
So every 45-minute keynote is a 3-day investment.
Right.
But because people are moving to virtual conferences, I'm in New York in the morning, I'm in Chicago late morning, and I'm in Pittsburgh that afternoon.
Boom.
And so I go from that
and you
where
never
I'm like,
left your kitchen, right?
I'm wearing my swim trunks on the bottom, right? I'm a reverse mullet, business on the top and party on the bottom. And so, but then Thursday, so that was Wednesday, and I'm like, I love the new norm. And then Thursday, I made 141 cold calls.
Yes.
And left 141 voicemails. And that has never happened where I don't talk to a human.
Anybody.
And so for probably a few minutes, like I'm burnt out, my voice is torn up because you make that many calls, right?
Yes.
And I sit there and I can get a feel of how people are feeling the desperation of no one's doing business.
Right.
But as soon as I feel myself go to the dark place, which I'm not immune to, I'm like, double down tomorrow. I refuse to not talk to humans this week. And so Friday, I made 61 calls. I talked to 8 people.
Okay.
I got one ask for a proposal. So I was on Thursday and Friday, I was 1 for 200.
Wow.
But the value of that opportunity is $700,000. Okay. And they were surprised that I called because no one's called them. And so the people that you do get are people of the mindset. They're like, we need to figure out the new norm because this is not going to last for another month or 2 months. We're looking at end of summer, end of 2020, like people are now talking Q2 2021. Can you really afford to take a month off, 3 months, 6, 12, 18, 24 months? I don't think you can. Right. And even if you could afford it, by the time you get back in the dojo, you are going to be so rusty, you're going to be injured for the next year. So it's good to keep moving.
Yeah, you can't let the engine stop, right? Because restarting it is too hard.
That's it.
So now I've seen some examples of this. I know you've seen some examples of this, of people figuring out how to keep adding value when the way they worked has stopped, right? I know you used the example when we were talking of your daughter's ballet class. My daughter's karate class had exactly the same
Yes.
concept. So just share a little bit about how that studio was able to use the new technology, because otherwise their business was closed.
And then this is the thing, is we're all used to going and doing things, and we laugh, like my wife's name is Jocelyn. We laugh about daddy and mommy taxi is the only thing we're happy is out of business, right? Because we were running judo, ballet, dance class, friggin' plays, all of this stuff. And so we were having the kids watch stuff on YouTube,
Yes.
right? Like ballet, like Julia was my daughter, was dancing around like to just a normal ballet class, just trying to follow along, right? Her school took a total of 2 weeks to figure out how to do Zoom, which is the platform they used.
Yep.
And the instructor sits there and she sees all the gals at the bottom. And the catch is they're supposed to be doing duets.
That's interesting.
So imagine orchestrating 2 9-year-old girls to be dancing together. But what's interesting is she said to them, don't look at the screen at your partner, close your eyes and pretend she's there with you.
Okay.
And so like from a centering meditative point of view, she's getting them even more dialed in. But what's interesting is they have lost no students, 0 students. And why? Number one, they're trying.
Yep.
And number two, the parents need their kids to be doing this stuff, right?
Yes.
So we're willing for it not to work as well as in person, for it to be working. But
Right.
on top of that, because I live on an island, North Island has no ballet schools. Those kids up there are now enrolling in online ballet classes that they would have never done.
So here, the studio that your daughter's attending, that the owner of that is now able to not just keep the business running, can now expand it.
Expand it to anywhere. You could have a kid in Australia, if they could work the time zone, a kid in Australia could be. And so what she's doing is connecting the current students with new students. So making, friends, like this is for a company like that that's pivoting, they will come out exponentially stronger and have a market that is much more fluid than the traditional stand by the bar, right?
Yeah.
And like Julia doesn't have a bar at home, she uses the back of the couch. But they have thought this through so that they're not expecting their customers to figure out how to do it. What they're saying is, if you don't have a couch and where you are, use a dinner chair. If you don't have that, use the bar. If you don't have that, have your bike on a kickstand.
Right.
Like they are thinking through what the client needs to know to be successful in the new model.
Yeah, I noticed my daughter, she's just got her brown belt in karate, so she's working towards a black belt, and they're doing, her dojos are doing precisely the same thing. They have a big Zoom class with all the kids at her level. The instructor and the sensei, they do the exercise, and all the kids can see each other. So I think this is really beneficial when people are figuring out, how do I keep moving? And I think it's because a lot of them stopped thinking about their business as what they did. They're now thinking about, how do I solve the problem the client has? Right. I don't just have a dance studio. I offer dance instruction. So how do I offer dance instruction? How do I offer karate instruction? Because I was limited before by thinking I had to do it here. But if I don't think about that, what new things happen?
When I think webinar, wow, sorry to interrupt, but like webinars, I have always hated webinars, right? Because I like to be in person. I like to feed off the crowd. But with these, I mean, now that we're all doing, we're doing webinars our own with each other. What's great is the technology has advanced way farther than I was aware, because I refused to use it. If there was a prospect, I'd fly to see the prospect. Right. But now getting that those nonverbal cues, right? And now, like you and I know, we'll have virtual happy hour with 5 or 6 buddies.
Right.
We're all having it. Now, is it as good as sitting and clinking glasses and having a whiskey? It isn't. But it's better than the phone.
Right.
And so now we're starting, and even for me, I'm starting to adapt this technology going, I don't know why I would give up 3 days to do a 45-minute keynote anymore. Like, that doesn't seem reasonable.
So this is the next thing, right? So you learning to use these new tools and these capabilities to kind of keep in business now, but this is very much going to be the new way forward. So the faster we develop mastery at this and keep innovating with this, I think the people that keep learning how to do it better will continue to have an advantage over the people that are kind of thinking it's all going to go back to the way it was in February.
Right. Well, and I think, when we think about this YouTube, like the channel was started as a challenge for me, but now all of us are working the YouTube arena simply because now people at home, like I've never watched more YouTube than I have since I got home from tour. I don't know about you.
Well, I know I got you hooked on Tiger King. Sorry about that.
Yeah, damn you and Carol.
And Carol Bass.
And so that's, I think the catch is now as a consumer, I like to produce content
Right.
because I like to consume content. And so
Right.
it's like we're all now feeding into this ecosphere, and it's a way to give advice that we would normally charge for.
Yes.
We can kind of give love, intimacy out into the market to say, here's who I am. Like you and I are talking like we talk when it's just the two of us.
Well, we've
And
cleaned it
so
up for television,
we
right?
clean it up a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like there is a stage persona
Yes.
and there is a friend component.
Right.
And what I'm finding is as we're all sharing content, we're getting more comfortable leaving the stage persona on the stage.
Yes.
And just having the conversations that people are craving, which are just honest, right? Like sometimes I'm nervous. I haven't been scared, but I've been nervous because I'm nervous clients won't keep their head in the game. And I know the opportunity that this market offers because I watched it in 07, 08, 09 and watched us grow. And even us, like we're expecting to double in size by 2023 because of this correction.
So let's jump to that, because one of the other videos that you shot, and again, I'll put the links to these things somewhere up in this space up here, was you talk about playing offense, not defense right now. And I think that kind of brings a lot of things that we just talked about. So if you wouldn't mind, dig into that idea a bit more about why now is when you have to dial it up as opposed to worrying about protecting.
Right. One, so in a normal market, everyone is competing in the noise of the market, right? And so everyone's like, I'm the best accountant, I'm the best accountant, I'm the best accountant. In a situation like this, 99% of the market of individuals are playing not to lose. They're hoarding toilet paper, right? Got to make sure I can wipe my bum. Got to make sure that I can wash my hands with sanitizer.
Yes.
Like everyone is playing not to get hurt. And I don't mean that like I'm not saying go, lick bathroom poles.
Yeah.
But this is a situation where everyone is like this.
Yes, they're all hiding.
And they're all hiding. And so when you go on the offense and attack into your markets, and I'm not saying no leg humping, right? You're not selling, but when you are present, you go from being a bouncing dinghy in the rocking ocean to the lighthouse. And so I am the swim instructor, not the lifeguard.
Right.
I'm not swimming out to save people. I'm instructing this is where safety is.
Got it.
And so people do not have lighthouses. Families are looking to each other for the lighthouse. Dad lost his job. Mom lost his job. Kids aren't going to school, can't go to ballet, can't play basketball. And they are all huddled in the life raft.
Yeah.
And so right now, when I'm calling, and anyone that I am getting through to, and I shared this with you, Darren, but I make 1 hour of cold calls a day.
Mm-hmm.
I have been averaging 4 hours of cold calls a day to get the same output I used to get in an hour.
Wow.
And so when this was first happening the first week, I'm like, what the hell's the matter with me? Right? Like I personalize, I'm missing something. But then when I hear competitors, including some of the bigger competitors in our market saying, we're not even making calls because no one's doing business, I'm like, I totally understand. And I get this internal shite-eating grin on my face where I'm like, they're not even playing.
Wow.
We're in a soccer match and they don't have anyone on the field and the referee's waiting to put up points.
Yeah.
And so the people that I do get a hold of, which is a minority, which is why I have to make 4 times the calls, I say to them, how busy are you on calls? And they're like, oh, we're on a lot of internal Zoom meetings. I'm like, how many partners, strategic alliances, champions are calling you? 0. We haven't had a call yet. And so I'm like, oh, and I'm like, well, a lot of companies are scared and they're not sure that they're going to stay in the game either.
Right.
We're healthy. And so we want to take care of you in the short term and do business with you in the long term.
Well, I just, as you were saying that, an idea occurred to me about why you're probably not getting a hold of anybody. And this now maybe is a country song, which is the curse of the unknown caller. Because a lot of people have got their office phones forwarded to their cell phones or something. And you'll come through somehow as unknown. No one takes that because we don't need our ducks cleaned. So I suspect that might be one of the challenges you have to get over is you're going to have to leave messages because no one touches that phone when they don't know who it is.
Yeah, that's true.
So it might be the technology that is messing it up a little bit, possibly. I'll share that with you, unknown caller. With respect to how businesses are going to do from this, there's no doubt that many of them are going to be challenged by their current environment. So, and in some cases, legitimately, if they own a restaurant, for example, it might be shut down. They own a factory, it's not essential, it's shut down. So for those guys struggling through some of this is going to be difficult. And I know you've given some advice to people about how do you deal with vendors? How do you deal with landlords? So what's some of your best advice for people that are finding that, yes, I want to keep an operation, but I legitimately can't do some of the things that I did. So yes, I want to be out trying to figure out how to keep my business running, but how do I deal with these other realities of costs and the other issues that I must attend to right now? So what's your advice for the people that are kind of jammed up that way?
Well, I think it's the first thing is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. There are a lot of uncomfortable conversations that need to happen. And I think there has never been a time where honesty is more respected.
Okay.
And so everyone's always got the game face on, but I don't know if I shared this story with you about the baker. We have a Cobb's bread. Cobb's is a bakery in Canada for your American viewers. And so he came on Facebook, just had a thing on Facebook, and he must have targeted geographically his trade area and said, hey, everyone, just wanted to let you know we're open for business. These are the 9 things we're doing to keep it safe. 1 person on the till. We clean between every client. The bakers have their temperature checked every morning. Like they really went above and beyond, way ahead, right? Like I'm saying, well, within 2 weeks of me getting home because I didn't go out of the house.
Got it.
And so I said to my wife, we need to try to keep that guy in business, right? Because I like the effort, and effort gets rewarded, right?
Yeah.
And so I went in, and one gal, but they only let 1 person in the store. When you walk out, they wipe everything down, and then the next person comes in. And so I said to the girl, can I have some hot cross buns? Because it was, I guess, right before Easter.
Okay.
And she goes, is there anything else you'd like? And I'm like, no. And she kind of gave me that look, right? Like the girl guide trying to sell boxes. I'm like, do you want me to buy something else?
But I have the mint ones. Can I have?
Yeah. I go, do you want me to buy something else? And she's like, yeah, I'd like you to buy a loaf of bread. And I'm like, okay, give me a loaf of bread, right? And I think business owners now that are doing better or well, right? I'm not apologetic for doing well.
Yeah.
But I am also mindful that I want as many other people to do well as possible. I want there to be a big team of team entrepreneur left at the end of this. And so I said to her, I'm like, why do you need me to have an extra loaf? And she goes, we have a quota to break even, and that extra loaf is our break even point for the day.
Oh.
And this is an employee probably making whatever minimum wage is, who is mindful for the first time of the financials of her boss.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And so he comes out, he's the baker, and he comes out and he goes, hey, I'd shake your hand if things were different. Thank you so much. And he goes, just so you know, all of the bread that we don't sell, we put at the employment center down on Jocelyn Road, which is one of the main thoroughfares of where I live. And he goes, so if any of your friends are having trouble, they don't have to feel bad. They can go, we leave all of our bread. They can take care of their family. And he goes, on top of that, please let everybody know that if they need bread, they can come in. We don't ask for the transaction, which means if we don't see you pull a Visa out because they won't take cash anymore, you can ask for what you need and you can walk out. Wow. Unless you open up your wallet, we want you to take the bread. And so I've told that story to probably 200 people.
Yeah.
Every one of my neighbors goes there twice a week. And so that's what I mean is we're clustering around. That's a good human. That's a good business owner. And that's somebody taking care of the community. So the community feels proud to take care of him.
Got it.
And so this is what we want to do. And that's why I'm saying every call we make is not a sales call, even though we intend to sell to them later. This call is a service call. What can we do to keep your head above water in the short term so that you can swim hard when things clear up a bit?
That's excellent. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a couple links up because I don't need you to repeat it. Is you have a video on how to deal with vendors, how to deal with your landlord if that's your situation. So I'll put some of that content there if you don't mind, so people can jump into that and kind of if that applies to their situation, you've got some great advice on how to navigate through some difficult situations if you find yourself in that particular problem, right? That particular issue. So in your career, you've worked with lots of different businesses. What do you anticipate to be what happens at the end of this? Like, what do you think is really going to be the new normal? Do you have an idea from the business owners you've talked to, kind of what the new playground or playing field is going to look like shortly?
Yeah, I think it's going to be online. And so I don't think it's Amazon online, but what I think it is going to be is it's almost like a forest fire or like the California fires last year. This thing is going to burn through and we're trying to control the burn, right? Which is the stay-at-home kind of orders. Right. It's trying to control, like it's burning. We're not going to stop the burn. We got to let it run through. Yep. I think there's going to be a greater appreciation for the people that put the effort in. And so the survivors are going to benefit twofold. One, they survived.
Yep.
And two, people are going to see that through sheer determination where possible, they were able to keep in the loop. But I think after that, my hope is, and what I'm seeing from my own, like my clients who are selling, is the level of intimacy with your clientele will go back to that rather than being transactional.
Yes.
And it won't mean that we don't want to do business together, but we're going to realize, and you've heard me say this for years, life is too short to do business with arseholes.
Yeah.
And so if I don't want to be on a video call with you drinking coffee out of my grumpy mug, I don't want to do business with you. And before I may have flown across the country to see a prospect that I don't love and I don't hate, I'm just interested in, I'm going to think twice about that moving forward. Is that really what I want to do?
Right.
And so the people that put in the effort now, they're going to get paid tenfold. And the people that don't, I think they're going to have regrets, because in 07, 08, 09, I watched the companies that were just trying to ride it out.
Yes.
And ended up folding into the economy and having bad time. And their regret was not what happened in the economy. Their regret was what they did in response to the economy.
Got it.
And so I live a life of not wanting to have regrets, which is why I'm making I don't need to call for 4 hours a day, but because I set goals for myself, that callousing of the mind and the effort is, I want it to be hard because it's hard for other people. And so I want to be in there rowing, but I'm not pulling people out of the water if they're jumping out of the lifeboat.
Got it. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of what people will take from this is either they feel like this whole thing was kind of done to them, or the ones that will respond were like, this was an opportunity for me to do something else with my business, my life. I found a way positively through all this stuff. And I also agree on the intimacy thing. I mean, I'm in my office today. We're considered an essential service, so everyone on my team has to take turns kind of coming into the office, checking the mail and that kind of thing. So I'm using this today. But many of us now, we're in each other's, and it's the same when you watch the people on television. We're in each other's like spare bedrooms and kitchens and backyards with all the technology. So yeah, this is a remarkably intimate moment for many people. And I think the ones that understand it, are comfortable with it, and can use it will be very, very well off, as opposed to everyone that's hiding or feels again like this is being done to them. I love your analogy of like the don't hurt me, make the bad man stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we got to get past that. Chris, I'm going to wind it up there. Thank you very much. You've been very generous with your time. And on behalf of our clients and our viewers, I wanted to thank you for sharing your perspective, your insight, your wisdom and experience today. And as I say, I'll put a link to your channel and some of the videos, and I hope the people that are following me will also follow you, and we'll all get through this together. So thank you, my friend. Cheers to you, and have a great day. Thank you.
Talk soon.